Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to be painting pumpkins. I'm really excited about this. It is so not fall here yet. We're in the middle of summer here in Arkansas, but I am getting hopeful for some cooler weather. We've had a couple of pretty decent days this last week. So anyhow, we're gonna get started on our fall projects a little bit early this year. So I found this image off of a website called Pixabay, and I thought it was adorable and perfect for what I wanted to do with some pumpkins. They're semi-realistic. And I'm going to do, this is definitely a beginner project. So even though that these look kind of detailed, this is perfect for a first-time painter. You really can do this. And I'm going to show you step-by-step how to draw it, how to paint it, all the way through, what brushes you're going to need and everything. So I've got my husband Mark here.
Hey everybody.
And he is going to be manning our chat room. So if you've got any questions for me, you can put those over in the chat. You do have to subscribe to my channel before it'll let you chat with us. So please do that if you haven't already. And after the show, please be sure to click on the iCards up there in the corner, the little eye with the circle. And it'll drop down and show you some playlists for beginners and other fall projects that you can do. So let's get started. I have got a 12 by 16 inch canvas, and I'm going to have to kind of offset it here so that I can get it in the camera, the whole thing in the camera, since we're doing it in vertically this time. And I've got my paints out here. Now if you don't have all these colors, I'll tell you kind of how you can mix some of them. Basically, ooh, that ran a little bit. Basically it's just yellows and oranges and a little bit of red. If you don't have orange, you can mix red and yellow to get orange, of course. But if you have, well, let me just go through the colors here for you. This is Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green. This is a color called Naples Yellow. It's a pre-mixed color. It's similar to my Unbleached Titanium, only it's got a little bit more yellow. So you could, if you don't have Unbleached Titanium or this color, you can use white with a little bit of yellow ochre and cadmium yellow to make mixes of these. This one is Cadmium Orange, and it's just a little bit more vibrant than you would get if you mix the red and yellow together. This one is called Dialuride Yellow. I'm not sure, but it's like a yellow, cadmium yellow deep, or just a deeper yellow. That one is totally optional. You can get that color by mixing the orange and yellow together. This one's called Phthalo Orange. That is a really expensive color, so if you don't happen to have it, don't get it. But you can kind of mix something similar with your, this one is Cadmium Red Light, and Cadmium Red Medium, Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber, Carbon Black, which I really didn't use a whole lot of the Carbon Black. You can use Mars Black instead. And then this one is Titanium White, of course. So pretty limited color palette today. Our brushes are going to be just a large flat, kind of a small to medium flat, and a couple of small round brushes. And that's all you need. If you want to, you can switch out your large flat or your medium flat for a filbert instead. That'll work as well. And if you have a chiseled flat, you can use that also. Chiseled or just a little bit shorter than the flat. I'm going to use both and just see which one I like better. I'm not sure. When I did mine, I used a longer flat, and but it reacts a little bit different on paper. This is my sketchbook. I have a link to this product down on Amazon. You can get it. I think it's like, they're not very expensive, like maybe $8 or something like that. But I use it to do all of my practice projects for my videos, and they work great. It accepts paint really well. The paper warps a little bit, but it's really not bad. So it's great for if you're practicing, you can pick one of those up. All right, let's get started. I'm going to wet down my large flat brush, and you can use even a foam brush if you don't have a large flat this size. Like a small foam brush would work just fine for this. I'm going to grab some titanium white and a little tiny bit. Now you only need a teeny tiny bit of this Phthalo Blue. A little bit goes a long way with the Phthalo Blue. It's very high tinting strength. So even that much, that little teeny tiny bit was too much. If you notice, I'm pulling from the side of my paint puddle. I'm not trying to mix this whole thing of white. I'm just kind of pulling a little bit as I need it off to the side on a clean spot on my foam plate. And now I'm going to use the corner of my brush to just kind of nick and pick up a little bit of the burnt umber. Burnt umber and phthalo blue make this beautiful kind of, I don't know, it's like a soft aqua color. It's really weird. You wouldn't think that brown and blue would look this well together, but they really make this beautiful turquoise color that's kind of a grayed out turquoise. So we kind of wanted, I kind of played with the background. Of course, in my picture, the colors are a little bit more bright green, but I kind of wanted to use more of a turquoise against that, more of a blue tint, because blue looks good against orange. So I wanted to do that in my background. They're complementary colors, and that means they're opposite on the color wheel, and they will do well together in a painting. So I try to use that as much as I can. That's a good color. See how pretty that is? It's like just a gray blue green. So I'm going to squish off some of that onto my canvas here, my palette, and pick up a little bit more water. That will be my greenery color. I'm going to pick up a little bit more blue now, and a little bit more of my white, find a clean spot, just kind of pre-mix that so that I'd have it to work with later. Pick up a little bit more white. That blue really does mix. Okay, that's good. We're going to use this color up in the sky. So this is just the blue and white. I still had the burnt umber in my brush too, so that's fine. And I'm just going to do my sky area, and our horizon line's pretty high on this painting, so it only comes down, maybe about a quarter of the way down the canvas. So if you've adjusted your size of your canvas, just kind of use the general, whatever size canvas you use, just kind of measure half and then quarter it half and half again, and just kind of find that as your horizon line. And this horizon line is going to kind of sweep from side to side. I'm going to pick up a little bit more white and use that along my horizon line here. It's going to mix with my blues, and I'm just going to sweep it side to side a little bit. And while this paint is wet, don't overblend it, because I want all these kind of streaky things happening in my paint. I don't know if you can see it from that far away, but there's some streaks in there. That'll just kind of help maybe make it look like there might be clouds or whatever. Your eye will fill in the details. How are we doing on chat, honey?
Doing pretty good. You had a shout out for your nails very early on.
Oh,
so
yes, my nails. I painted them orange today. Yes, pumpkin color. I actually bought this a couple weeks ago. I guess I was in the fall mood already.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We got people here from Australia and Russia and Netherlands and Canada.
That's amazing.
So coming in all over.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've met so many nice people doing these YouTube videos. It's amazing to me that I never really thought about the fact that it was a global platform when we started doing these. Okay, I think I'm just trying to get that horizon line just a little bit more white. So.
Yeah, we had the picture posted this week in your Facebook group from Taipei. The students
that's right.
doing the
yeah, we had
cones.
a lady in Taipei that was using one of my drawing videos with their kids class there. Amazing. So cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start out with the this mixture that I made, and I'm going to just put in my first hill area, and it's going to be very light against that sky, and it's just going to kind of sweep down diagonally. Actually, let's go ahead for the beginners. I think it might be helpful just to kind of draw it out, just to make it a little bit easier visually. So we've got our line here. We're going to do another line kind of this way across, and then we'll have another line maybe like this, and then another line kind of across like that. So there's not going to be that many lines. So we had one line kind of this way, one line sort of, the sky sort of did a diagonal. It wasn't straight across. So it kind of came up like that. So we've just got like a little wedge of a pie here that we're doing this little hill that's in the farthest distance. And I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my blue and do it. Well, let's get some green. I'm going to grab my Phthalo Green. There we go. Just a little bit darker. I felt like it wasn't showing up very well. There we go. And then we'll get it a little bit more of this. I'm going to go ahead and mix up a little bit darker value now. So pick up a little bit more blue and a little bit more of the brown. And I'm just going to add a little bit more dark colors as I move down towards the bottom of the canvas. And change the values a little bit. These ones that are farther away are going to be more gray. Maybe not that dark. There we go. And then when you get closer to, as objects get closer to you, they're going to be less gray and more vibrant colors. But we're going to still keep this background pretty indistinct. I'm not really getting too fussy with it. I just kind of want it to sort of blend back into the background so that the pumpkins are our main focal point. And if there's streaks like that, don't worry about it. Just keep on brushing through. You can brush those out if you want, or you can leave them. I kind of prefer leaving them. I think it adds to the look of the painting. And just keeping on going through here. Might do a little bit darker right there where they were meeting. There we go. Okay, this is looking good. I'm just kind of doing horizontal lines, and that way it kind of gives you a little bit of the illusion of depth. Having these horizon lines be vertical, or I'm sorry, horizontal, kind of makes it look like there's maybe planes of things happening, layers of hills or something. So if you have a messy area here where you want to clean it up, you can press your brush flat and just use the edge of it to kind of run sideways like this, and you can kind of clean it up. All right, that's good. So we'll add a little bit more of the blue. And this time we'll grab a little bit more green. We're going to make it a little bit more vibrant, so maybe we won't add the brown in this time. It's still got the brown from our previous mixture. See? There we go. So it's getting a little bit more vibrant as it's getting closer to us. And I'm just going to use that edge of my brush to kind of go along that horizon line, or that line where the hills are making a change. Pick up just a little bit more blue and a little bit more green. Do that a little bit darker. Maybe let's go ahead and grab some brown too. There we go. Just want to make sure you can tell where those colors change. Honestly, this could be anything you want. You could make this as detailed as you want to. If you want to make grass in it, you could do that. And I put the link to the picture that I used, the reference image. So if you wanted to use that and use the same colors, those greens that are in it, you can certainly do that. I have a lot of people ask me from time to time, when they're doing my videos, if it's okay if they do, change the colors, if it's okay that if they do something else. And I'm thinking, hey, it's your painting. It is your painting. You make it your own, however you feel fit. I really prefer it when people do that because it shows me that you're kind of taking what I'm showing you and molding it into your own thing. So that is awesome. That's perfectly great.
We have a question from Janelle. Says that she has golden products, but she doesn't have it in orange, but she does have the orange in a craft paint. Is it okay to mix the two different paints together?
Yes, it sure is. You could even mix latex house paints with it. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but I have used latex as a base when I've done murals. And since they're water-based, they actually do blend just fine. So yeah, but any kind of acrylic products will blend together. Even the open acrylics that are the kind of act like water-based oils, sort of, not water-based oils, but the open acrylics, they're called. They're a golden product. Those will mix with regular acrylics as well. So anything that says acrylic will, yeah, you can blend it just fine. Actually, this bottom one is gonna, I'm just going across here, filling it in. Just got it a little bit on my paper there. That's all right. Actually, my colors here are a little bit darker, so I think I'm gonna go a little bit darker with this and grab a little bit more of the blue and brown. And do a little bit more of those, yeah, that darker color. Grab a little bit of water. Now, if you want to, you can use an extender or a blending medium for this to help your paints go on a little bit more smoothly. I just tend to use water because that's kind of what I learned using. I don't use a lot of blending mediums, but you use whatever works for you. So yeah, I think this is better, just a little bit darker. There we go. See how I'm just kind of blending through and streaking it. If your paints are starting to dry, you will want to just let them dry completely, and then you can always come back and add more colors to them afterwards. But if once they're starting to dry, you don't want to mess with them. Otherwise, they'll lift right off your canvas, and that was something that happens to a lot of beginners when they're working with acrylics. Acrylics can be a little bit finicky. They don't want to be messed with when they're starting to dry. Okay, I'm going to grab some of this white and brown, and I'm going to make some bushes up here. Now, if you want to, you can use your chalk over your dry paint and just kind of make some little wiggles here. I'm just going to make a couple bushes like that. I don't know if they can see that. No, we're kind of far away today on our camera angle. I'm sorry about that. We had to get a little farther away so that it would fit in the... That's why I don't do a lot of vertical paintings. Okay, and so I'm not going to change my brush. I'm going to go ahead and keep using this. But if you want to, like if you have a Deerfoot stippler or something like that, you could totally use that. That's one of the brushes that I've used before for trees and things like that. You could use it. I'm not going for a lot of detail today, so I'm just going to be using the corner of my brush and sort of dabbing in some fluffy bushes here. We'll leave a little bit of space. Trying to get it fairly close to this color that we used on the hillside. In fact, you could do this right after you did your hill if you wanted to, while you still had that color mixed. Instead of waiting.
I had a question asking, how often do you have to buy new brushes?
You should be able to use a brush for years. Like, depends on how much you're painting with it and what you're doing with them. Like if I'm doing a mural, working on walls is really hard on a brush. So I need a one use on a brush, and that's it. So I always add that into my cost of materials when I'm doing, quotes. But this kind of thing, if you're working on a canvas like this, you should be able to use that brush for a couple of years at least, if you're taking care of it and washing it really well in between uses. So I'm going to use this color and pick up a little bit more and just streak some of this up on this hill, just so that these trees kind of blend in and they look like they're part of this scene here. This is dry now, so it's going to accept this paint over the top. This is just like maybe one shade darker than what we did previously. Just going over these light areas and just adding a few little streaks. And that's it. So that's all we're going to do with these bushes. We're not going to do a whole lot of shadowing or, you know, highlighting or anything. But just using that corner of the brush really gives it that fluffiness.
Okay, got another question asking that if you buy a bargain pack of canvases, do you need to gesso them first?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you should. It just depends on the brand. These were a bargain pack of canvas panels that I'm using, and they've been fine. So it just depends on the maker. Sometimes I've heard that some of the Michaels, sorry Michaels, but I've heard that some of their bargain canvases are not the best. I've used the Hobby Lobby bargain canvases in my kids' classes for several years, and very rarely have I ever had any problems with them not accepting paint very well. But you know, gessoing it ahead of time is a way to help with that. Grabbing a little bit more white. I still have this kind of brownish color. I'm just going to streak back over a little bit. I feel like it was getting a little bit dark. Okay, that's good. Don't want to get super detailed with it. Let's go ahead and streak a little bit of this color down in here too. And then in our foreground, we're going to do more of a brighter green. So let me grab some Phthalo Green and some yellow ochre. And I'll still grab a little bit of the Phthalo Blue because I do want it to be a little bit of the turquoise, but we're going a little bit more green than blue with it. That's good. That yellow ochre just kind of keeps it a little bit more on the subdued side. We don't want to get it like a lime green color, but we did want to soften up that phthalo green. I like watching Ginger cook. If you've ever, if you're new to YouTube, there's a couple other painters that I like, kind of contemporaries of mine that are friends. Ginger Cook and her daughter Cinnamon Cooney, and Ginger calls these colors circus colors. So I love it. She's always got such funny names for things. So yeah, she does really great. Like she'll take Monet or Van Gogh and do, you know, show you how to paint them. So she's pretty awesome. And Cinnamon, her daughter, is awesome too. She's a good friend, and we have a group called Angeluni on Facebook that we do collaborations from time to time. We'll do themed ones, and we've got one coming up in the fall here in a little bit. We're going to do a Harry Potter. I don't think it's a secret, so I can say we're going to do a Harry Potter themed collaboration, so that should be a lot of fun. So you can watch for that. That'll be coming up. I don't know when exactly. We haven't set a date yet, so. And we may pull in some other artists to do it with us.
Okay, somebody wanted to know, how often are you wetting down your brush as you're doing this?
Just whenever it starts to get sticky and feels like it's dragging, then I'll wet it down again. It just depends, but usually probably every new color that I introduce, I'll pick up a little tiny bit of water just to kind of help. I'm going to come through here. I feel like this area needs a little darkness. So phthalo, yellow ochre, and I'm grabbing some burnt umber just to darken it up a little bit too. There we go. Let's use that color along this.
Just want to say thanks to everybody who's joining us this afternoon. If you just joined and you want to join in the chat, go ahead and subscribe to Angela's channel. You can jump in and post questions or comment.
Okay, I think, you know what, I think I want to make this line straight across because I feel like it looks like another hill and I don't really want that. So I'm gonna, oops, see that's drying there and it was picking up my paint. So I may have to have you dry this for me, honey. Are you set up to dry today?
Ooh, yeah, I can do that. Can you do that? Sure.
All right.
You want to do it now?
Yeah, do it.
All right, hold on.
Mark's my designated dryer. So I'm going to clean that out. I'm doing it a little bit differently than this one. I noticed that the horizon line was a little bit higher on my image than I had done it here, so I'm just making it a little bit higher on my example. Plus I'm using a larger canvas, so sometimes I do things a little bit differently depending on the canvas size. It's fine, honey. Just do it quickly. It's okay if you can hear it. Oh, okay. I'll paint Stickman. That's a good idea. Yeah, let's give him a little pumpkin. He's our little mascot that we paint with him every time. We did a cactus last week. It looks like a pickle, but it is a cactus, I promise. Let's give him a little pumpkin down here somewhere. We'll put the pumpkin in front of the cactus. Oh, this is really bad. You would never guess the quality of the artwork that we're showing you how to do by these Stickman drawings here. There we go. Maybe not the best place to put him, but that's good enough, I think. Oh, pumpkins. We went to France and we did a Eiffel Tower. We did a flag painting for 4th of July. This was our flower season. I need to put a center on our flower here. There we go. Maybe eventually he'll get some pants. I don't know. We'll see. And Stickman doesn't need pants? Okay. We did a bird painting. We did our drip trees and clouds a couple weeks ago. This was a seascape that we did. Or no, this is our sea creatures paintings that we did on the blue. So anyhow, that's probably good enough, honey. We'll put him away. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. She loved live TV. That would have been edited out if we, except for Stickman. So that was a good idea. We'll have to remember to do that anytime we have to do some quick changes. Okay, so I'm gonna put just a little bit of detail into my hills here. I'm gonna grab some of the burnt umber. Need a little bit of water. If your paint's starting to get dry, you can use a spray bottle. I keep one of these handy, and I spray my paints pretty regularly. If you're excuse me, that's a burp. If you're living in a very dry climate, what you may need to do is stop every now and then and spray your paints. Put them in the plastic baggie that I keep mine in. If you're using a palette paper, you can put it in a plastic Tupperware thing that fits the palette. Just anything airtight, and leave it for about a half an hour to an hour and come back to it, and it should rehydrate your paints even better than just spraying them. So that's a little trick. Something about having it in that moist environment, a sealed baggie, kind of forces the moisture back down into the paints. So, and I'm just going to put some streaks in this hillside here, maybe add a little bit more of the brown. So there's some maybe some bushes over here or something like that, but they're very random. I'm not using my brush to create any shapes or anything. I'm just kind of keeping it very indistinct. I don't know if I like that, so I'm going to add a little bit more white. Soften that up. There we go. This is just going to be behind our pumpkin, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Pick up a little bit more blue. Paint's acting weird today.
Can tell you're thinking.
I'm being quiet. Yes, I am. I am thinking. That's funny. Sorry. Sometimes I forget. I get in that kind of zen place and I forget that people are actually listening to what I'm saying here. Sorry. I'm in my happy place. Don't disturb me. I'm thinking, and she's changing colors and thinking it through. It is hard to paint and talk at the same time. It's kind of a left brain, right brain thing. So sometimes I will lose, especially if I'm teaching a class like in front of people, because I'm a little bit more self-conscious. I will struggle for words. Like, I'll just be like this thing right here. Like, I can't think of what, the name for a brush or the name for whatever. It's like you kind of lose the words. I'm picking up a little bit more water and just brushing through. So I'm going to feel like it got a little bit dark. Okay, so I'm just kind of picking it at it. You really don't have to get this detailed. I'm just kind of playing with it to get it sorted to the place where I like it. I think that that's good. Let's do a little bit of brown right along this, like a little bit of dark, just along the horizon line here where the hill starts. And I'm just kind of tapping along that edge to sort of feather it out. And blending side to side.
So people want to know
that's good.
What paints
That's
are
it.
you using as far as the brand and level?
Most of these are golden. Let me grab my tray here. Most of my paints are golden today. I do have a few Liquitex colors, but I'm kind of slowly switching over to all golden paints just because I feel like they're a little bit creamier. Sometimes my Liquitex, as they age, they get a little bit grainy, like the sorry, my phone just went off. And turn off the sound. There we go. So anyhow, that's just my personal preference. I really feel like the golden are a little bit creamier. There is a Liquitex Basics line that's a little bit softer, and it's a great starter set for beginners. So if you're a first time to painting, that's actually a pretty decent set to start out with. I recommend it to my students, and that's what I use in a lot of my student classes, is the Liquitex Basics. So because they come in big sets and you don't get the larger bottles, like if you bought it, I'm just softening up this horizon line. I feel like it's too dark. The bottles are, very small. Oh, sorry. Anyhow, so yeah. Liquitex Basics. I actually have the link for the Liquitex Basics down in my description, or in the materials list. So I think that that's good. I'm not going to fuss with this background anymore. That's good enough, and we've spent 30 minutes on it. That's way more time than we need to. 30 minutes wasted on, well, not wasted, but intro. So I am going to try to draw on this. I think it's pretty dry. It's still a tiny bit tacky, but I think it'll be okay. We'll see. So I'm going to start out. I'm going to try to kind of figure out my placement. The middle pumpkin will be kind of right in the middle of the canvas, and then the smaller one will be sort of overlapping this one here. So in fact, it'll probably be covering most of that bush. I may have to do another bush a little bit farther over. So I'm going to start up there and draw in my first pumpkin. Keep it fairly small. Bigger. I think that's about right. Maybe a little bit closer together there. So I'm going to do 2 brackets, kind of C's opposite each other, and then a flat line across the bottom. The top is going to be also kind of a flat line, so it's just like a flattened oval. Then the stem is going to come up and curve up like a S shape. A little bit thicker where it touches the body. Right in the middle of that pumpkin there. I think that's good. Let's do our second one a little bit wider. Just making sure that I'm leaving, it should be right in the middle section. So find my halfway mark, and if you're farther down or farther above, you may need to adjust your top pumpkin. You want this one right in the middle. Come out a little bit farther. I'm just using chalk, and that way I can erase it if I make a mistake. A little bit farther and a little bit deeper. So you can kind of measure that one and come down just a little bit from it. Here again, the bottom is just kind of straight across. Make sure these straight across marks are almost perfectly horizontal. So don't look at your lines here and think that your pumpkin, bottom should go at an angle like this. Just kind of, if you need to use a ruler or whatever, use the bottom or top edge of the canvas to make sure that you're getting straight lines here. Then my third one is going to come in and come a little bit farther out. So each time my pumpkins are getting a little bit bigger, a little bit fatter as they come down. Almost like a snowman. Huh? This is sort of the way we build a snowman. And straight across. So just make sure you get nice V's right here. So all of these shapes, you don't want them to stack up straight. So like you don't want your lines to come up like this and down like that. You want them to come in quite a bit so that you have these nice deep V's in between your pumpkins. Like that. All right. Then for the bottom part, our log is going to come out just a little bit from the bottom of that pumpkin on either side. Just a small C. Imagine that this line is going all the way across, so you want this to match up on this end here, right? Then it's going to come straight across here. And there's our bottom of my pumpkin. And just erase that line. So that's all the log that we're going to see. I may even shorten it up even a little bit more. Make it come up a little bit higher because I want it pretty close to my pumpkin. Okay, then this is going to come straight down from here, from the widest part of this line is going to come straight down. And that's our log. So, not hard. If you don't want to draw this yourself, I will have a traceable in my Thankful Art group. I'll also post it on my Instagram page, and that posts to Pinterest. So between Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook, you should be able to find the traceable if you want it. I have the links to all of those, my social media accounts, down in the description of the video, so you can find those afterwards. And follow me if you haven't already on all of those different things. Okay, so I think that that's good. I feel like that this one needs to be a little bit squishier, like he's squashed a little bit more. So I want to bring this one down a little bit more, like he's a little bit chunkier, and this one is a little bit more squashed. Just looking at it. Yeah, that's better. So this is a time to kind of make your little small adjustments like that. And your pumpkins do come down just slightly from this line, so they don't come straight across from the one above it. These ones kind of come up a little bit, and then these lines come down just slightly below. And that'll make it look like this pumpkin is kind of underneath and behind it a little bit. So I think that that's a little bit better. Yeah, I'm liking that better. Might even make this one. No, I think that's good. I don't want to fuss it with it too much. Okay, let's grab my flat brush. Let's start filling in our colors. So the top one I made a little bit lighter than the bottom one. So it is Naples Yellow and Burnt Sienna. Most all of them are going to have Burnt Sienna as their base. And then I'm just changing the colors. So if you don't have this Naples Yellow, you could use Unbleached Titanium with a little bit of yellow. Excuse me. And I'm just going to fill it in, following the contours of the pumpkin, so that if any of this shows through, it's going to be streaking and looking like it's going in the right direction. So I'm just using this edge of my flat brush, setting it down and pulling around, using the flat part of it, that edge, to draw my line, and then I can fill it in with my color. And the middle part here is going to come straight down, and then as you go around, you're going to start curving and start mimicking this outside curve. So and right here at the bottom, pull up, curve up, up, then straight up right here in the middle, and then start curving it around the sides a little bit. This side is going to be shadowed over here, so all of this side is going to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to grab a little bit more of my burnt sienna and just go over that while it's wet, and just blend a little bit of that into that color. Start at the bottom and blend it up. If your paint's starting to dry, you can just let it get your hairdryer out and dry it first, and then do this burnt sienna over the top. That's good. That's all we're going to do for that one. We're going to move on to our second pumpkin. That's Cadmium Orange and Burnt Sienna for the base. And I'm putting this dark color underneath first, and then we're going to build our highlights on top of it. Got a frog in my throat today. So I'm going to use that edge of my brush, just draw along that outside line. This is the only time that you're really going to have to be a little bit more careful with how you're putting your paints on. You want to get this nice and clean right here, so you can kind of use the edge of your brush and kind of brush it along real carefully. As long as you kind of pull your brush to a point. If you notice when I load it, I kind of press it flat. That gives it a nice edge that's nice and sharp and flat, and that allows me to kind of go along that edge and just pull down and get right up next to it. Pull down. How are we doing, hon?
Oh, doing good. There's a very in-depth discussion on the quality of the caps on the golden tubes.
Oh, I hate the caps on golden. Yeah, you can see that I've had to hot glue some of mine, like I've kind of emergency repairs. Some of them are taped. Like this one, I've had to tape the top. I actually find that hot glue then tape works the best for me. So.
Do you get paint like in the grooves of the screw top?
Yes.
And do you have any tips on how to remove it from there?
Well, I mean, you can. It'll dry up eventually, but technically you're supposed to clean off your top every time. So every time you use it. Oops, sorry, I touched it again. Sorry. Every time you put out paint, if you'll wipe this area with a rag before you screw it back on, and just try not to touch it into this part that's wet in the middle there. It'll help not mess up. But I forget to do that, and I get in a hurry, and so mine get all gummed up. And I've actually had to use needle nose pliers before to get my paints open that have stuck shut. Same thing with some of the mediums and things. Sometimes they'll get stuck shut and I'll have to use pliers to get them open. So, okay, so that's the second time I've hit this. I need to not use these long brushes with my mic here. I should have gotten one of those mics that go on my head. That way I wouldn't have that problem. So this is just the cadmium orange and burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is just kind of a reddish brown color. And if you don't have it, you could substitute burnt umber for it. That would be fine. It won't be quite as orange, but you could add a little bit of red to it maybe to make it a little bit more of a reddish tone. So I'm going to go right up underneath this one, and I think I'm going to bring that one out just a little bit and grab a little bit of this color and bring this one out up here just a little bit.
Got a question from June asking what brand sketchbook do you use?
This one is actually Strathmore Visual. It's called Visual Journal, I think. And then it's the mixed media. But the other one that I like to use is the Canson. Let me grab it. Canson XL mixed media. Both of them are the mixed media, and that's the important thing to get. So the one that's in the description is the Canson one that I found on Amazon. So I put that in the description for anybody that wanted to find it. But they sell them at Walmart, the Canson ones, and they sell these ones at Hobby Lobby, and both of them at Hobby Lobby, I think. So probably Michael's too. I just don't have a Michael's in town, so don't use one as often. I wish there was one in town. Okay, so I just blended back over that just to make that a little bit bigger there on that one. And let's grab the bottom one is going to be Cadmium Red Light and Burnt Sienna. So it's kind of a deeper red. If you don't have Cadmium Red Light, you can use Cadmium Red and add a little bit of yellow to it. Just keep it kind of really dark orange. It's just a beautiful dark orangey red. Very vibrant. Of course, I've added burnt sienna to it, so it's not as dark right now or not as vibrant, but we'll be adding the straight color on top for some streaks. So we're just kind of wanting a little bit darker shade for the underneath of our pumpkin. That way when we put our lighter shades on top, there'll be some contrast. toward the bottom here, I'm just grabbing mostly burnt sienna and just doing this bottom with straight burnt sienna. And the bottom pretty much goes straight across. If you want to put some little rounded areas, you can. We'll kind of do that in here in a little bit, though, when we add our details in. Just keep on filling this in. Ooh, that's bright. Add a little bit more of the burnt sienna to get it a little darker. Adding water to it to get it to flow. I think the example took me, I want to say an hour and a half, or something like that. But I was working out the colors, so I really don't feel like it should take too long. We're almost at 2 hours here, aren't we? Or we're almost at an hour since we started.
Yeah, and we got 102 likes.
Awesome.
And got a question asking, how does mixed media work with watercolor and acrylic, as they both work well, or their own paper?
On paper? Well, I mean, on mixed media, or acrylics work fine on watercolor paper. Watercolor paper is very absorbent, and it's very strong because, you know, it has to be strong in order to hold up to all of the water being added to it. So it does fine with acrylics, and I've used it before with, if that's what they were talking about, the paper or if you can mix watercolor and acrylics. Yes, you can mix. I mean, not mix them on your palette, but you can put one over the top of the other, because although I don't know that watercolors would, if you're doing it on paper, though, I think that they would both just soak into the paper and they would be fine. I really haven't experimented with that a whole lot, but I do think that's a possibility. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the lighter color on my lighter side here, and just clean that bottom area there. There we go. I think that's good. We've got our base coat on. You can see a little bit of that cadmium orange still on my brush when I press down nice and hard. That's okay. All right, let's do our stem up here. Or let's do the bottom of our trunk, our tree.
Got a question asking, can you use colored chalk when you draw out your sketch when you start painting?
Yes, and I do use colored chalk. Sometimes it can tint your paint. Like if you're using white over the top of your colored chalk, it will tint your white whatever color it is, but you can just, you know, go over it with a couple of coats and that's fine. But yes, you can use colored chalk, and I do use it. So I'm gonna do now this is another part where you just have to be a little bit careful. I'm gonna hold it. I find that if I turn it on its side, sometimes it's easier for me to do. So sometimes I like to hold my canvas. You could switch to a smaller brush if you're having a hard time with this. So I'm going to go all the way across with this dark brown. This is burnt umber. Just take your time. You could definitely do this with a number 4 round if you wanted to, if it's easier for you. Use whatever brush you're comfortable with. A lot of people, you know, ask about brushes, and I like to use, you definitely want to use thick, well, see, if you make a little mistake like that, just use your finger. It's fine, we'll fix it when we do. Nice thing about acrylics is you can cover over them if you make a little boo-boo. I like to use synthetic brushes for synthetic fiber brushes, so nylon or Taklon are two kinds of synthetic materials that work well with acrylics. You definitely don't want to use a natural hairbrush. Hog hair is fine, but those are better for oils. I'm going to add just a little bit of this unbleached titanium to my brown, just to soften it up a little bit in this front part. And I'm pulling straight down with these. And I haven't really mixed my paint up fully, so it's a little bit streaky. We're going to use that to our advantage, so don't overblend when you add your unbleached titanium. Just mix it a tiny bit. Pull straight down. And I still have those oranges in my brush too, so it's kind of coming off a little bit orange. That's fine. Along the sides here, I'm just going to use the edge of my brush and pull straight down. Pull it around there. And same thing on this side. Straight down. Ooh. If you get a little bit outside the lines, you can take a wet cloth and wipe that off. Clean it up. Okay, I'm going to darken up this inner area here. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my blue, and I'm going to go right up along my pumpkin. That seems like a weird color to use, the blue, but it actually kind of turns black when you put it over the top of the burnt umber. And I'm just going to go right up underneath my pumpkin all the way across, just kind of tapping it along that edge. And sort of dry brushing. And I'm going to kind of do this little circular motion here along the outside. And just dry brush. When I say dry brush, it just means that my brush doesn't have a lot of water in it. And I'm just going to let it kind of catch the fibers of the canvas and leave a little bit of, kind of like what we did up here. Leave a little bit of streakiness showing. Okay. Let's grab a little bit of my unbleached titanium now. And make kind of a gray color. And I'm just going to go along this outside edge here and just use the corner of my brush to kind of tap in just a little bit of detail. Let me zoom in so you can see that better.
They asked if there's any tips for painting if you have shaky hands.
You know, if you have shaky hands, I would say just use it to your advantage and do some paintings that are a little bit more impressionistic style. You could definitely do this painting that way and just kind of let your shakiness fly, you know. Yeah. I do find that if I stabilize my hand, sometimes that helps. So let me zoom out. Whoop, wrong way. If I hold my hand in a fist underneath where I'm going to be painting, hold my brush nice and close up on the ferrule and rest my hand on that fist, that I can get a little bit more of a stability when I'm painting. So that might help you too. I don't know, if that would, but that might be what I would try.
And while you're showing the hand tips there, people want to see the finger dance because you're at 112 lights.
Ooh. That's awesome. Okay, I'm getting a little bit too light. I don't want this to get light up here. I want it to stay dark, so I'm just going to tap back over with a little bit of that burnt umber. Now, I'm being a little bit fussy with this, I know, but just all these little extra details will really help sell it as being a little bit more realistic. So you notice I did not go very dark, very light with it. It's still very, very dark on this top area because I want that to look like it's flat and shaded. Now I'm going to do my highlighting part, and let me go ahead and clean out my brush, and I want to wipe it dry really well. So definitely want it nice and dry. If you have a stiff bristled brush like a hog's hair that I was mentioning, you could switch out for that right now for this part, and it makes it a little bit easier. But I'm going to grab, see how my bristles now are not sticking together. They're kind of flared out and fuzzy. That's what we want to use to our advantage. So I'm going to grab some of my unbleached titanium and some of my yellow oxide or yellow ochre and touch it a couple times. That's it. Not maybe pick up a little bit of that brown, touch it a couple of times. Don't go back and back over the same thing because you want it to be streaky like this. So 1, 2, and done. Let's start off to the side here. I'm going to turn my brush just a little bit so that I can go along this edge, get it right up into that corner because you want it up there, and then pull straight down along that edge. See how it kind of catches? And that brush being streaky, I'm going to bring this up a little bit. I feel like it got a little bit too low right there. So I'm just going to tap and pull. And when I pull, I'm pulling straight down. And that gives you that nice streaked effect. Makes it look like wood. So touch just a tiny bit of paint on my brush. A couple of yellow ochre, little teeny tiny bit, maybe just on the corner of the burnt umber. And that's it. It should look streaky on here. If it doesn't look streaky on here, you've blended it too much. So just start at the top. That'll be our brightest spot. And pull straight down. The harder you push, the more paint will come off on your brush. So if you want an area to have a little bit more brightness, you can do that. And that'll actually look good because it'll be less uniform. So keep on doing this. Grab a little bit of the burnt or unbleached titanium, yellow ochre, or oxide, and burnt umber. I'm going to turn it.
Got a question asking, what can you use other than unbleached titanium?
If you don't have unbleached titanium, you can use titanium white and just add a little bit of yellow oxide to it, and it's almost the same color. It's just a pre-mixed white. So if you have Naples Yellow, you could use a little bit of that. Let's use a little bit of Naples Yellow on this too. Naples Yellow is very close to it, so you could just add a little bit extra white to your Naples Yellow and get a similar color. Let's add a little bit of yellow. So I'm just kind of tapping along the top here and then pulling down. Tap a little bit in so that this top lip is bright to get a nice sharp definition on our log. And just keep on going down. The main thing is just to make sure that you're keeping these lines vertical. That'll kind of help sell it. Now as we get around the side here, I'm going to add a little bit more of the brown to my mixture so that it is a little bit darker, since this is our shadow side. Now as I get up here, I can do some streaks straight down this way if I want. Or get up there in the corner and just kind of touch it in the corner and pull down. Good.
What size canvas is that again that you're using?
This is a 12 by 16. But you could use any size that you wanted to. I just find that this is a good size for video. So.
And what is it in centimeters?
Oh,
Oh, you don't have your cheat sheet, do you?
I don't. I do. It's right over here. I just don't
okay.
have it with
Don't worry about it.
on hand.
I'll get it.
Okay. Okay, now I'm going to grab some unbleached titanium and just go back in and maybe just add a few bright spots here and there. Don't want to overdo it because I don't want to lose my brown, my nice dark brown. Whoop, got a little bit up there. Streaks. If you do too much and you get too much of your brown covered, you can just go back over it with a little bit of the burnt umber and streak back over a little bit of that dark brown. So works both ways. The dark brown will streak over the top of these colors. Now they're still wet, so I don't want to play with them too much because they're going to start getting muddy if I keep messing with them. But I am going to grab a little bit of black and a little bit of my burnt umber here. Mix a little bit darker color. And I'm going to use the corner of my brush to just do kind of a little circle right here, just to make it look like it might have a knot. It's not a perfect circle and it's not filled in all the way. Just using the corner of my brush, and maybe do a couple more spots here and there just to kind of make it look like that there's something going on that wood, and then maybe streak it just to get the rest of that off. I'm going to add a little bit of my Naples Yellow and kind of highlight that little knot, just touching the corner of my brush over the top of it to give it a little bit like the light's catching it in a couple places. And I think that's it for our stump. So let's go to our pumpkins. Oh, let's do the top of my pumpkin here. That'll be burnt umber. For my base. And I've switched over to a number 4 round. Actually, this is a number 1 Robert Simmons, but it's the same as my number 4 round. It's about a 1/4 inch round. I just wanted to see how this one did, because this is part of that set that I got last week that had these brushes and one other one in it. So I wanted to see how this one works. It's a little bit firmer than the Robert Simmons Sapphire. The titanium line is a little bit, they're both Robert Simmons, but the titanium line is a little bit firmer. So for the top part, I'm just kind of feathering in kind of a rough edge so that it looks sort of jagged. And then I'm going to swoop down and fill in my stem. It gets a little bit thicker as it gets down toward the base here. So just a little bit thicker right there. Now, while that's wet, I'm going to grab some unbleached titanium, and I've still got the brown in my brush, so it's kind of mixing a little bit. And I'm going to start making some streaks to make it look twisted. So I'm going to start at the top and brush down like that, and that'll kind of make it look like it's sort of twisted right here. Then I'm going to start at this outside edge and twist in like this. See how that made it look sort of like that stem is twisted. And we can add a little bit of yellow, Naples Yellow to it. A few streaks of that. Grab some more of my brown, do some of that. You don't really want to over blend it too much. If you kind of get it where you like it, just leave it. I think I'm going to leave that there, and I might put in another, let me put it a little bit darker on this side. I think once this dries, I'll put a little highlight that kind of comes right down the middle right there once it's dry. So that'll be good. Grab my flat again. Now we'll start putting in some of our details on our pumpkins. And grab my Naples Yellow. I sprayed my canvas, or my palette here because it was getting dry. Grab some Naples Yellow. My green kind of mixed in with it, but I think I pulled it out. Okay. So I'm going to use that and a little bit of yellow oxide. And I'm going to start over in my dark areas here. I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to swoop it down. My brush is not completely dry. It still has a little bit of water in it, but I'm kind of lifting before I get to the bottom here so that it's dragging it and creating streaks of highlight. When I get to the middle here, I'm going straight down towards myself. And then as I get toward the outside here, I'm starting to turn it a little bit. So the brighter part is going to be at the top, so I'm kind of lifting before I get to the bottom. That way it'll automatically make it look a little bit more shadowed down toward the bottom there. Now let's use some of our color that is on this bottom one, this Cadmium Red Light, and I'm going to mix it with my yellow and start from the bottom and pull up just a little bit of it, like maybe it's reflected light from or something. This will be part of our shadow color. Not a lot. Don't overdo it with this color because I want this pumpkin to sort of stay in that yellow range. It's actually kind of one of those flesh colored pumpkins. So
Are you able to make Naples Yellow by
yes,
mixing a couple colors?
Yeah, Naples Yellow would be titanium white, and let me see, I think it's yellow ochre or yellow oxide. Yeah, and then it says dialloyed, right? Yellow. I don't know how to say it, which is this one here, this kind of dark. So these two plus white, just a dark cadmium with yellow oxide, or yellow oxide with white would work too.
And then Maureen asked that if you're finished with a painting and you just don't like it, can you just start over on it and I guess paint it over? And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can use gesso on it, on your canvas, and just paint over. You might see a little bit of your brush strokes, through the gesso, but yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I'm grabbing some burnt sienna here and just making this a little bit darker. But yeah, I mean, honestly though, a lot of times beginners will, every painting goes through an ugly stage, and a lot of times the ugly stage is where beginners will quit and they don't push through to because this, like this painting right now is definitely in the ugly stage. So if you got to this point and you were like, oh, this is not looking the way I want it to, this is looking terrible, they'll quit and, or maybe, just not know what to do to kind of finish it. So that's where I would say, get yourself into a group like my Thankful Art group or one of the other. There's all kinds of groups on Facebook and on the internet that will help with critiques. Now in my group, we're a little bit nicer than some of the other groups. Like the rule is to be kind. So with the critiques are a little bit gentler than you might find in other places. But I'm grabbing a little bit more of my yellow color now, and I'm blending back over that transition just to kind of soften up the transition from between the dark and the light. So I pulled some of the dark color up, and then I'm kind of pulling back down with my lighter color. Now I think I want to make some definitions between the pumpkin sections. So I'm going to start out here on this outside. I've got just the straight Naples Yellow, and I'm going to streak in right along that edge. Use the edge of your brush. You need to get along that edge, streak it around, make a nice bright highlight section. Now leave a little bit of space. Start here and do another one. But see how I'm kind of leaving a little bit of gap, and it's leaving a natural shadow there. That's how we're going to create our sections. But yes, I would say yes, you can definitely paint over, but you know, I would say 9 times out of 10 when somebody brings me a painting that they say, you know, they can't finish or that they don't like, there's a very simple, usually 1 or 2 extra things that they need to do to it, and then it'll be finished. You know, sometimes it's just a matter of your drawing was a little bit off maybe at the beginning. So you may have to go in and straighten something, or, you know, but acrylics are nice because you can make corrections fairly easily just using the same color, you know, that you used for your background. You can kind of straighten something or correct it or whatever. I'm going to grab a little bit of my background color that I used, that's the Naples Yellow and the Burnt Sienna, and I'm going to darken up that little section there. While I'm doing it, these colors are still wet, so they're kind of blending a little bit. See that? A little bit more Naples Yellow, leave a little bit of space. Honestly, when I did my example, I kind of told Mark I kind of fussed with it. So there's not like I didn't have like a real easy way of teaching it today. Sorry. It's not like a straightforward tutorial. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. A little bit of finessing to get it to where, but you could definitely do it a lot more simplified. You could just do you know, your pumpkins like this, and then just do your highlight color and be done, and leave a little bit of space and not worry about, you know, the shadowing and that kind of thing. And that would be perfectly fine. And so if you're, you know, first time painter and you're like, this is way too many layers, here, I'll do this next one a little bit more simplified, and you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to use my burnt umber now, and I'm going to just tap in along the back, the bottom of my pumpkin here, to give it a little bit of a shadow. And then I'm going to wipe most of it off my brush and use just a very little bit to pull up, just a little tiny bit on my pumpkin there, just on that dark side. And that's it. Now on this one underneath, I'm going to pull it down just a little bit because there's like a shadowed area right here. See that? Okay. So we could call that pumpkin done if we wanted to. We're going to do a little bit more with it. We're going to put a little bit more of the highlights to it. But we'll go ahead and move on to our next one here. I keep thinking that I'm going to try to get my paintings down to an hour, and it never happens. I don't know what the deal is. I can't seem to do it. So I'm sorry that this is going to be a little bit longer than I might have hoped for. I guess I could do it a lot more simplified. I just get into all these little details and I make it more complicated than it needs to be, probably. Okay, so now for this pumpkin here, our highlight color is the Cadmium Orange Straight. And I'm going to start out here on the side, my brightest side, and go right up against there and pull down. And as I get toward the bottom, I'm going to barely drag it and lift. That'll give it that kind of feathery edge. And then I'll very lightly go over it along that edge so it's got kind of a soft edge right there. Then I'm going to grab a little bit more and come a little bit farther away. And if you want to, you could draw out your sections. So I could say, there's a section, and here's a section, and here's a section. And these ones are going to curve this way. There might be one that's kind of partially showing there. Okay, so that might help you when you're trying to do this part to kind of keep your sections straight. So wherever your chalk line is, you're going to leave it dark. You're not going to go over that part. That'll be our separation.
People are enjoying the details that you're putting in there. And,
okay, good.
And Letha says that your videos are great, so don't worry about the time.
Okay, great.
They're enjoying themselves.
Oh, good, good. Good to know. Okay, so there, then I'm going to go right down the middle of this one. And I'm just using very light brush strokes. This is definitely a dry brush type technique. Don't have very much water on my brush. If your brush is too sticky though, you can add a little bit of water just to kind of help it flow. But this is definitely a dry brush painting for most of these details. So I'm leaving a little bit of a gap. I'm not like going right up to the edge with that top color and pulling almost straight down right here. See how just leaving a little bit of a gap already gives us a little shadow. So yeah, we don't usually buy our pumpkins until about, I don't know, mid-October here usually. Although by then there's a lot of times they're not all that great. We used to go to the pumpkin patch every year, which was super fun. There's a really good one. But it's a little bit of a drive, and when my kids were little we used to go for field trips every year, but now they're getting too old for that. Two of them are grown and out of the house, and the third one is a teenager, and yeah, he wouldn't be caught dead in a pumpkin patch, I don't think.
Yeah, and then we'll look forward to doing it with the grandkids someday.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be nice. It's going to be nice.
And so we need to pick out a painting that I'll be able to do along with you.
Okay. Yeah,
Here
that'd be
coming up.
fun.
I think this one's a little advanced for me, but
I think you could have done it. You probably could have done it. Oh, I hit my camera, sorry.
or I'm sure maybe we can take some
I'm going to grab
suggestions from the fans.
yeah,
on what to
something that
paint.
you want to. You can do the
Yeah.
boho girl with me next week.
Well, why aren't we doing boho pumpkins?
Do they need flowers? Do they need some hippie beads or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, here I'm just going very, very light with my color because this is my darker area, and I'm kind of coming up underneath my shadow there, so I'm not going over the top of my shadow area. Going a little bit lighter. See how that kind of naturally. So if you're a beginner, you could stop right there. So you could do your base coat, and then you could just do your top coat with the brighter color and call it good and not worry too much about the shadows or that kind of thing. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of this color up in this pumpkin above us. So just a little bit, kind of like it's reflected from the bottom. Just very little. That'll just kind of help them sort of visually look like that. And if you look at the original photograph, you can see that there is a little bit of that reflected light, or this pumpkin is a little bit darker right there where they're reflected. And on this side here, there's a little bit of a blue cast reflection from the sky, and we're going to add a little bit of that in as well. Okay, so I think that that's good. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of my burnt umber and burnt sienna mixture, and I'm not cleaning my brush out, so there's still all these other good colors on there. It'll just help them kind of blend. I'm going to start at the bottom here and pull up just a few little shadows. Kind of make our pumpkin look a little bit more rounded. And grab a little bit more of that dark color, tap it along the bottom. That's just the burnt umber. Just tapping it in the edge of my brush. And then grabbing this burnt sienna color and pulling up from that line. Can even go over the top of some of our middle areas there where they were supposed to be separated. This is definitely, I mean, you might not do this. You could do the easier version as a first time painter. Maybe leave out the background and just paint it on a colored canvas. And don't, you know, maybe probably the hardest part is getting this, you know, getting these curves in and maybe some of this. I mean, it's really not that difficult. It looks harder than it is. But you know, if you're a first-time painter and you want to do some pumpkins, you could definitely do it the simplified version where you just kind of do the darker color underneath and then the highlights, leaving some space, and call it good. So, you know, this is definitely can be for any level of painter, can be adapted. But if you want to get a little bit more fussy with it, a little bit more detailed, you can kind of do some of the shadowing and things that we're doing here.
So I had a question that if you have all the paints, but maybe not all the brushes, what could you do? Or what are like the key brushes that you would need to do something like this?
My key brushes are an angle, a liner, a round, and a flat. Those are your key brushes to start with, and you can get the flat and the angle in different sizes. A liner could be substituted for like a spotter, which is, if I can find one. Oh, where is it? There it is. A spotter is just a liner that's got shorter bristles. That's easier for a beginner to start with. So you might, instead of doing the liner, say, you know, spotter, liner. The angle brushes are really great, and I could have used an angle brush on this. I could have used a filbert brush, which a filbert is just a rounded tip brush. If you're doing a lot of flowers, the filbert is probably one you want to get. I would get a little bit smaller. Depending on the size canvases you're using, you know, is the size of brushes that you're going to want. So if you're doing really large canvases, you're going to want larger brushes. If you're doing smaller canvases, smaller brushes. It just kind of, what I recommend is finding a brush that fits the area that you're trying to fill in easily. So, but is as large as will fit comfortably in that space. The larger brush will be easier. It'll be faster than a smaller brush. Will just take a little bit longer time to fill in some of your areas. So I say, you know, this is a good medium-sized brush. This is the number 4 in the Robert Simmons. Like a 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch flat is probably your basic all-around brush. And then a small, like 1/4 inch round or something would be your second purchase. So you could do I've done whole paintings with just those 2 brushes. And a lot of times when I'm working on murals, I will just use a large flat, and that's about it. I don't even use liner brushes or anything, because you can use the flat brush like a liner brush, and you can make lines out of it just by, you know, dragging it along its edge. So hope that explains that. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Let's move on to this one under here. This is our big pumpkin here. And this is, I'm going to use some of the Cadmium Red Light, just straight up Cadmium Red Light. And let's go ahead and put in our sections here. So let's say there's a section here, and a section here. These outer sections are going to kind of curve in a little bit sharply. Okay, that's good. So we can use this along the outside edge. This outside edge is going to be nice and bright. put that in, and as I get toward that line, I'm going to very lightly brush over it, but not, so my paint's not quite as thick. I'm going to cover over that boo-boo that I made earlier when I was doing my brown. Notice I'm always brushing along that line. If I need to fill in an area, I never am going to pull my brush this way. I'm always going to go over it in the direction that I want the form or the shape of whatever object I'm doing to follow. So, and that's just an easy way of creating these shapes and shadows and not giving yourself a lot of extra work.
Somebody missed which brush you used to do the log.
This same brush. And this whole painting is done pretty much with this brush, and I only switched to the number 4 round or the round brush for this part. The background was done with a little bit bigger flat brush,
Okay.
just to make it easier, but all the details are done with this brush.
And that one is?
It's about a 1/2 inch flat. I'm just using.
People must be hungry here in the chat because we're talking about pumpkin pie,
Oh.
and squash, and turnips, and all kinds of other
Oh my.
fall vegetables.
Yeah.
Pumpkin pie with whipped cream.
That's Mark's favorite. He's a pumpkin pie guy. He's like, if we're going to have any pie at all, it's going to be pumpkin pie. And then maybe a berry pie, like a blueberry pie. I think that's your all-time favorite.
Yeah, blueberry and cherry and pumpkin.
Yeah.
And then apple too, though.
Apple. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a couple of years since I've made an apple pie. I need to do that this year. Just haven't had those good apples that I like to use. I like to use Rome apples, and they're hard to find here. Okay, so I'm gonna, oops, I'm totally off camera. You didn't tell me, honey. Jeez.
Hey, you're off camera
You're
there.
my camera guy.
I'm
You're
so
not telling
sorry.
me.
I'm watching chat. I wasn't watching
You're not
the
watching what I'm doing.
We're talking about food here.
Okay,
And
sorry.
More important things right now
Okay.
than the actual painting. Come on.
Oh, gosh. I don't know how you keep up with all of it, honestly, because I was watching Cinnamon's show earlier today, and the chat is going so fast, and I could barely keep up with what she was saying, and then the chat was kind of drawing my attention away from what she was saying, so kind of. But I love the chats. The chats make it a lot of fun. If you can catch a live show, that's really, we've got a great community of people that watch these live shows, and they're kind of get to know each other and become friends through the shows and in the groups on Facebook and things. So it's really been fun to kind of build a community of like-minded people who enjoy painting. And I'm going to add just a little bit of the burnt sienna for this last one here, just so that this one's a little bit darker. And if you go outside your lines there, you can clean it up. There we go. Okay, I'm going to just go over the top of my chalk marks here so that it kind of picks it up, but I don't really have any paint in my brush. I'm just kind of using it to dust off my canvas there. Okay, so while I've got this paint color in here, I'm going to use it underneath here to kind of add some cast light up on this underside of this pumpkin. Don't go too far up. I'm only going about maybe a quarter of the way up the pumpkin. There we go. And let's go ahead and grab our burnt umber. Let's Still have all these colors on my brush, so it's just kind of creating a shade of burnt umber that blends well. It's not straight color, and I'm just going to pull up into my shadow areas here. Now that paint is still a little bit tacky, so it may give you trouble. You may have to let it dry. I'm going to go ahead and pull my shadow down here from the top. Just little tapping motions. Just pull a little bit of paint down. That shadow kind of pulls from that one. And get a little bit more of my burnt umber. Pull up from the bottom here. Nice dark shadows. It's going to be nice and dark right up underneath there, just where that pumpkin hits the log. It's going to be really dark. So you can see in the picture how it's almost the same color as the log. So don't be afraid of going nice and dark. I think that one of the things that beginner painters are hesitant to do is use a lot of contrast, and really contrast is your friend. As long as you blend out your edges, you can use a lot of contrast, a lot of really, really bright, really, really dark. As long as you blend your transition areas, that will really help give your painting a lot more depth and realism. And a lot of times if you're kind of stuck on a painting and you don't know what to do, a lot of times I'll just, my advice is to go one shade darker and one shade lighter. So add a little bit darker darks and add a little bit brighter brights. And I'm going to deepen my shadows along my transition areas. These pumpkins actually weren't very deep. You know, the sections weren't very delineated, but I like a pumpkin that's got some grooves in it. So I'm doing my own thing with it and giving it a little bit more something. Okay, so we're almost done with that part of the detailing. We're done with our, initial detailing there. My top pumpkin, he's looking a little bit funky. I like him. Whoops, I got splashed some water on there. And I like that they're different. They're the three different kind of colors of orange. So we could stop here if we wanted to. I think I'm going to go ahead and do one more layer of darks and lights. We're going to add some blue to the shadows, and we're going to add some really, really bright highlights on the highlight side. So I'm going to grab my Unbleached Titanium. That'll be my bright highlight color for most of these. And I'm going to add a little bit of whatever base color of that pumpkin was. So just a tiny bit of the Naples Yellow. And I'm going to make sure my brush is not going to drop water on it. And I'm going to go right along the top in my highlight areas. Just in my brightest areas. And I'm not going all the way to the top of the pumpkin this time. Now I'm going to grab some white. And I'm going to streak. I have very, very little paint on my brush, and it's pretty dry. And I'm going to start about, just above the halfway mark, and just streak the lightest feathery touch, just very, very light. And done. That's it. See how much that just kind of brings it out? Just doing that extra little highlight there. Let's use this white up in our, I'm going to add a little bit of the Unbleached Titanium just so it's not super white. And I'm going to use this brush you could switch to your liner brush if you want to. And I'm just going to add a little bit of streakiness right at the top there to brighten up that log or the stem. Okay, now next section here, let's grab some yellow ochre. Actually, let's grab this dialuride yellow. I didn't use, okay, so we haven't used a lot of our yellows. I did use yellows in mine, so I'm going to add some of this dark yellow. This is Cadmium Yellow Deep. I'm going to add a little bit of that to my pumpkin sections, the brighter sections. That really helps give it a little bit more character. I'm going to add just a teeny tiny bit of it, maybe up along this side of it where the sunlight's catching on the bottom. So only my shadow areas on that one. And let's use it down here on this pumpkin in our, ooh, that's bright. It's going to look really bright, but that's all right. We're going to put some other colors in here. It won't look so bright when we add our other colors. Keep it in the, leave this area here. Just kind of think about this being like a shadowy area at the top of the pumpkin where it's kind of going in, and this one is coming out. This whole section right here is going to stay dark. So when I say dark, it's like this original color, the highlight or the middle ground color. So it's staying the middle ground color and the shadow color in this case. So bring your highlights down just below that section. So it's just kind of just where you might imagine that pumpkin is starting to curve back up into the next section. And grab a little bit of the Cadmium Orange. Add a little bit of that in my highlight areas. The nice thing about this is if you get too much of this, if you go a little overboard and it's like suddenly it looks the same color as this one up here, just grab your original color and put a little bit more over the top and you can fix it. So say I wanted a little bit more of this Cadmium Red Medium or Cadmium Red Light color, you can just go back over. I'm going to grab a little bit of the Cadmium Red Medium, start up there and pull down. And I think I need a little bit of my burnt sienna and pull a little bit of that down as well. Okay. Looking pretty good. I'm going to keep on going with my highlights on this one. This bottom one needs a little bit more love. And I think I want a little bit more of the bright color on this one. So I'm going to do a little bit more of the Cadmium Orange on this guy. You might need 2 coats to cover over that background color.
You're getting a lot of comments on how they're loving how these little details are making it pop.
I know, doesn't it? It's really amazing. Mm-hmm. Just a little extra. See, that's why, I say that, you go from the ugly stage to the finished stage like that. Usually it just needs 1 more or 2 more layers and it's done. So I would say don't give up on your paintings too early. Adding a little bit more of this Cadmium Orange onto this pumpkin here, brighten up these light areas. Not really going over into this one too much. Okay, now I'm going to grab this Cad Red and add a little bit of my Unbleached Titanium to it to make a softer version of that color. And just use a little bit of that. So far I've used yellows or lighter shades or lighter hues of color, lighter colors. So like yellow is a lighter color than these these oranges that we use down here, so we could use it as our highlight color, and it would automatically brighten it up without having to add any white. What are you saying, honey? You're laughing over there.
Okay, so we have a request or suggestion to put a bird on it.
Put a bird on it. Oh.
And so I
Maybe a
asked
little bird.
if it's like Portlandia kind of
Yeah,
bird
exactly.
on it, or
Oh, Portlandia! If you've never watched that show, that's one of Mark and I's favorites. So you can see how quirky and weird we are because we like that show, because that is a very weird show. You have to look up the description on I can't remember, Netflix. We were looking through and we read the Portlandia description. This is cadmium yellow now. And I'm just going to soften it up with a little bit of the unbleached titanium. Yeah, it was like home for weirdos and hippies and hipsters and all things crunchy or something like that. Oh, and thick glasses. Yeah, thick glasses and all things crunchy. I thought that was the perfect example.
what was that song? The Living the Dream?
Yeah, living the dream. The dream of the 90s is alive
Alive.
in Portland.
Portland, yeah.
Yeah, we're so weird.
Nancy just
Hi, Nancy.
commented in there.
Hi, Nancy.
No, it's Aunt Nancy.
Nancy, sorry.
Yes, come on.
Okay, so I'm brightening up this one with a little bit of that cad yellow mixture. That's going to really add a little bit of... I don't know if I love that. Okay, let's grab some of this cadmium red. We haven't used that yet. So let's make a salmon out of this cadmium red and some white. And I still have my yellows in my brush, so it's going to make this kind of a salmony red color. That'll be good on this flesh tone pumpkin. That's a really good fleshy tone. And we'll use a little bit of that. Might be a little bit too bright. I'm just using it kind of in the bottom areas here. Okay, I think that's good. I don't want to overwork this pumpkin there. I feel like I'm kind of overworking him. I'm going to grab some of my burnt sienna color and add back in my shadow area down there. There's kind of an area where you're painting, you kind of just need to stop and take a look, step back, kind of when you getting to this point where you're getting close to being finished with it, step back. Sometimes I will leave it in my living room for a couple of days and just look at it. And a lot of times I can see if there is or isn't anything that I want to change on it, just by kind of letting it sit. I'm going to use this light salmon color that I mixed up on this pumpkin down here in my bright highlight areas. That's a good color for that one. Excuse me. I am having all kinds of problems with my voice today. I'm grabbing a little bit of the white, and it's got a little bit of the unbleached titanium in it, so it's not straight white. And I'm going to go ahead and use that. I feel like I kind of covered over all my highlight here, so I'm going to kind of highlight this one again, real bright. Highlight this one. If you get a highlight in there that's too bright, I'll show you what you can do. So you can leave it. Don't try to take it off. You can go back in and give it a wash of color over the top. And it'll just tone it down and tint your white color to whatever you want it to be. So in this case, I'll probably just tint a little bit of orange over the top if I want it. So I'll go a little bit farther down on here that I want to go, and I'll show you on this one how to tint. And this is what I'm going to do with my with my shadows. This is pretty much dry, all of this, so I'm going to go ahead and use my brush, grab a little bit of the Phthalo Blue, and I'm going to cut it with the burnt umber so that it's not straight clown color blue. Circus color, sorry, not clown color, circus colors. It's Ginger's thing. So I love that, circus colors. It's so true too, because these colors straight out of the bottle are so vibrant, and you know, there's very few times when I use them straight out of the tube and don't do something to them, don't, you know, lighten or darken or do something to them to change them just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to use this color. I feel like I want to add a little bit of the burnt sienna to it. That'll be good. Okay, I'm just making kind of a gray blue color. It's just slightly tinted blue, so it's not like straight on blue in your face blue. And I'm just going to use it. I've got a little bit of water, add a little bit more water to my brush, so it's a wash. It's not going to be dry brush this time. It's going to be kind of a wash of color. I'm just going to wash it along that side there. If it gets too dark, I can take my paper towel and dab it off a little bit just to soften it up and to soften that transition. What are you laughing at over there? You're just laughing in the corner.
People are suggesting, let's see, we've had a crow, a raven, a bat, a bluebird, a peacock.
Peacock, that's awesome.
So, you know,
So
I
will you
guess
eat a bird? Is that?
Oh, that's up to you. I think it'd be interesting as people post the paintings as they've done them on your group to see what kind of birds they put in
add,
there. If
yeah.
they add any.
There you go. I'd need a reference photo for a bird. If I was going to do a bird, I don't want to try to wing it. Get it? Wing it.
Oh, wow.
That was bad.
That was rough, but okay.
Yeah. I could do a bird on it. Actually, that's what I'll do. On Halloween, I'm doing it's a really good idea, actually. I'm going to do this. Halloween, I'm going to be on May May's show. If you ever watched May May's This Crafty Life, it's May May and Melody, and they're a couple ladies. They do a live show every Monday, and they're going to have me on as a guest on Halloween this year. So I will do this. I will show. I will add a bird to this on that show. And that'll be Halloween, so you can catch that. I'm going to grab a little bit more of the straight Phthalo Blue, and I'm just going to tap that into my darkest area right here, over the top of that. Not all the way, but just in my darkest areas there.
Got a question asking, what is the difference between folk art acrylics and heavy body acrylics?
Folk art are considered a craft paint, and they're very fluid. They're very soft, and they're not as tinted. So they're not. I'm just grabbing my number 4 round. I wanted to tap in a little bit of this darker color, a little bit more controlled, just the tip of my brush, and use my finger to rub out the edge so that it's blended softly. Yeah, they're just a lower grade of acrylic paint. They're not as highly pigmented, so your colors won't be as vibrant, but they're great to learn with, and that's what I learned to paint with. You know, I painted with craft acrylics for years and years, doing wood crafts and things when I did that. So I think we're about done, honey. I don't know. Oh, I was going to show how to tint this over the white. So this white is dry now. So we'll take a little bit of our cadmium red. This works better. Actually, let's use our pyro red since we haven't used that yet. It's a transparent orange. It works better to do this with a transparent color just because it kind of works in your favor. And I'm going to go ahead and go over the top of that color. Look at how pretty that makes it. And I just have a little bit of water in my brush and a little bit of this color. I'm just washing over the top, and see how all of that texture underneath that we've already created with the light colors just get toned down a notch so that it's not quite so in your face. So you can see where we didn't do it and where we have done it, and how pretty that pyrrole. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it. That's the one there. Pyrrole? Pyrrole orange? I don't know. So, gosh, they make these colors. They always get me with the color names. Quinacridone magenta took me forever to figure out how to say quinacridone. So, if you know the right way to say pyrrole, you can let me know. Pyrrole. Pyrrole. I want to say pyrrole, but it's probably wrong. Probably doesn't matter as long as you get the right color. I'm going to do that there, and then I think I want to put a little bit of it up here too. I really like this color, so I think I'm going to just kind of add it to this one too. Just a little bit of water. Just add it along that bottom edge. We're almost done here. You can add a little bit. Let's just go ahead and go all the way up. We'll add it to all three of them. Just do it a little tiny bit at the bottom of this one. I think this one needs a little bit more bright highlight, so let's grab our Cad yellow and white. We'll do a really bright white highlight right here, and we'll just not go that far down with it.
Okay, if you don't have the pyrrole orange, what would be the next best thing?
You could use your this color. You could use this color, the Cadmium Red Medium. See, I'm losing my color name. I told you, the more I paint, the more I get into the right brain, I lose all speech abilities. It's really crazy. Okay, I think I'll do a little bit of that up here. Maybe even a little bit on this one. I think I'm happy with it. What do you think? Is that good?
Looks good from here.
Good highlights.
Everybody's, love how 3D it looks and really cool. The colors. Learning new words like pyrrole.
Yeah, you could go back in, and I might do just a little bit more on my log here. Let me clean out my brush. Dry it off really well. Grab just a little bit of the Unbleached Titanium and go back in and just streak in a little bit more of this really bright color in a couple places. Just to make it look like the log is really catching some light.
So for the bird that you're going to add for the collaboration,
I'll add a bird right up here.
Do we need to post some sort of a contest on Twitter or something for people to vote what kind of bird they want? Because they had raven and crow. Nancy suggested a pigeon. Peacock, bluebirds. Or a bat.
It has to be very simple because I got to be able to get it done in 15 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes. So it's going to have to be, I would say I would go for a crow just because it's kind of more of a fall bird. That would be my inclination. But yeah, I can put it to a vote in my group. I'll put it to a vote in my Thankful Art group.
In Facebook.
Yeah. You can see how, okay, I'll show you the difference between these two. This one was done with burnt sienna underneath. So on these ones, and it took several coats to cover up the burnt sienna. And so that's why I switched to the burnt sienna mixture with the Naples Yellow and the burnt sienna with the Cad Orange and the burnt sienna with the Cad Red Light. And you can see how it's a little bit softer. But if you like this kind of rougher look to the texture, and see how it's a little bit more, you can see that darker color through it more. I just used a softer color underneath on this one. So, but if you really like that kind of darker color underneath, that's all I did differently. And that's why it looks a little bit different, a little bit more rustic on this one. And I do like it. I really do actually like it. It just took several coats to cover over because that burnt sienna was such a dark color. I thought that this one would be a little bit easier to teach doing it this way. So that's the difference. If you kind of look at these two and go, that one looks a little bit different, that's why. So anyhow, I think we're done. And yeah, I kind of did my background a little bit different too, kind of softened up that back area. So anyhow, I really enjoyed this, and we'll
You have some links to other pumpkins you've done in the
yeah, I
past?
do. I have a link up there to a Zentangle pumpkin that I did last year, and my fall playlist. So yeah, if you want to check that out, you can. And thank you all that got to watch me live, and those who are watching the replay. I really appreciate you stopping by today, and I will see you next Saturday at 2. We'll be doing Bohemian Girl. I haven't gotten her figured out yet, but I will be doing the example and have that up for you soon. So thanks so much. I'll see you next week.